It wasn't the test that broke him. It was the memory he couldn't fully remember, and the possibility that someone else did. Caleb had always been the dependable one. At 37, he'd built a quiet life in Lubbock with Amanda, his wife of 8 years, and their 5-year-old son, Josh. Logistics came easy to him. Everything in its place, routes planned, contingencies calculated, mistakes minimized. Their life was ordinary, but good. Amanda was a second-grade teacher, disciplined, warm, often tired. Their schedules didn't always align, but they made it work. They laughed over frozen pizza on Fridays, exchanged tired kisses in the hallway, shared bath time with Josh like a ritual. They even found Haley, a sweet 22-year-old nursing student, to babysit a few evenings a week. Haley was kind, punctual, responsible. Amanda trusted her. Caleb barely noticed her, until that one night. Amanda was away for a teachers' conference in Austin. Caleb had the house to himself, a six-pack in the fridge, and a playoff game on TV. Haley had picked Josh up from preschool, kept him entertained, and put him to bed just after 8. "You okay driving home?" Caleb had asked, glancing at the clock. It was almost midnight. She'd hesitated. "My last class ran late. I left my car at campus. Uber's surging right now. You can crash here," he said without thinking. "Sofa's clean. I'll grab you a blanket." She smiled. "Thanks, I owe you." They sat for a few minutes in the dim glow of the television, watching the last quarter in silence. Caleb remembered cracking open another beer. He remembered her laughing at a bad commercial. He remembered warmth, proximity, and then nothing. He woke up alone in his bed. The next morning, Haley had already left. A thank you note on the kitchen counter. "Got a ride early." Josh was still asleep. "See you Monday." He didn't question it. Not really. Just a foggy night. Too much beer. He told himself they'd only talked. Maybe she'd nodded off. Nothing happened. Right. 3 weeks later, he found the test. It was a Tuesday. Amanda was giving Josh a bath. Caleb was taking out the trash. The bin in the guest bathroom felt oddly full. He opened it. There it was. White plastic. 2 pink lines. Positive. His hands went cold. The kind of cold that starts in your chest and spreads outward like ink. He stared at it, then at the trash around it. Tissues. A receipt. A wrapper from the vitamin gummies Amanda never used. Not Amanda. His mind rewound. Frantic. Amanda hadn't used that bathroom in weeks. Neither had he. Only one person had. He didn't throw it away. He placed it in a Ziploc bag and shoved it to the back of his sock drawer like a criminal hiding evidence from himself. He didn't ask Haley. He couldn't. But the next time she came over, she didn't meet his eyes. And that said enough. The silence between them thickened. She still played with Josh like nothing had changed. Still smiled at Amanda. Still cleaned up the crayons and folded the blanket on the couch. But every glance toward Caleb felt loaded. Not flirtatious. Not guilty. Just knowing. He started watching her too closely. The way she rested her hand on the edge of her stomach. The snacks she brought. The water bottle she refilled more often. Amanda didn't notice. Or didn't want to. One night, while Amanda read a book in bed, Caleb sat in the darkened living room, hands gripping the arms of the chair. What had he done? What hadn't he done? He couldn't remember. That was the worst part. There were flashes, her bare feet on the hardwood, a laugh too close to his ear, a heat in his chest. But no clear line, no consent, no denial, no proof. And yet, a test. A result. A maybe that looked a lot like a certainty. He avoided Haley when he could. Cut shifts. Claimed schedule changes. Hoped she'd just disappear. But she didn't. She came back. Again and again. Like a chapter he refused to finish reading. Then one Friday, she lingered by the door. "Everything okay?" she asked softly. Caleb didn't look at her. He nodded. "Yeah." Haley waited a beat, then said, "I don't blame you, you know." He looked up. "I just don't want to be the one to say it first." Then she left. He sat there, breathless, surrounded by the sound of everything he hadn't said. And the question he still didn't have an answer for. Was that night a mistake he made? Or a truth he was too scared to remember? Caleb started noticing things he hadn't noticed before. The way Haley took longer pauses between sentences. How she walked a little slower. How her clothes subtly shifted toward looser fabrics. She never said anything, never hinted, but her presence buzzed around him like static, visible only if you knew where to look. Amanda was planning a weekend trip to visit her sister in Amarillo. She was excited. Caleb smiled, nodded at all the right moments. But every word felt like he was performing. At night, he lay awake staring at the ceiling, trying to remember the gap in time like rewinding a corrupted tape. 1 minute, he was sipping beer. The next, it was morning, nothing in between, and yet the guilt gnawed at him. Because somewhere inside, he believed something happened. Haley had stopped sitting on the couch after Josh went to bed. She stayed in the kitchen or busied herself folding towels, wiping counters that weren't dirty. When they passed in the hallway, she turned sideways, like brushing against him might break something. He couldn't take it anymore. One Thursday evening, as she gathered her things, Caleb asked, "You heading out now?" She glanced at him, then nodded. "Yeah, early class." His voice cracked as he asked, "Can I ask you something?" She froze for half a beat. "Sure." He tried to sound casual. Failed. "If someone doesn't remember something that might have happened, but they think it did, what do you think they should do?" Haley put her bag down slowly. She didn't look at him. "I think," she said, carefully, "that if they didn't even remember what happened, maybe they're not the one who should expect someone else to say it out loud first." That hung in the air like smoke. She picked up her bag again and left without saying goodbye. The silence afterward wasn't quiet. It howled. Amanda noticed his restlessness but misread it as work stress. She began talking about holidays, asking whether they should drive to Santa Fe or fly to visit her parents. Caleb agreed to everything and nothing. He lived in two timelines, the one he shared with Amanda and Josh, and the one that looped in his mind every time Haley closed a door behind her. He started tracking her without realizing it. When she laughed too loudly, when she stood up too fast, whether she touched her stomach, whether she wore makeup, every moment became a data point in a puzzle he wasn't allowed to solve. And yet he couldn't ask. He couldn't say the words. Because what if he did? And what if she said yes? Then what? Amanda continued her weekend plans. Packed a small suitcase, kissed Josh goodbye, hugged Caleb tightly. He held her for a second too long, hoping she'd notice, but she didn't. The first night she was gone, Haley showed up like usual. Josh was asleep by 8. Haley stayed a little later than normal. Caleb sat at the kitchen table, pretending to read an article. Haley stood by the counter, scrolling her phone, back turned. He said, without looking up, "Do you want me to leave you alone?" Haley paused. "It's not about what I want," she said. "It's about what's already done." He looked up. Her face was neutral, eyes tired. "I'm scared," Caleb admitted. She didn't answer. Eventually, she walked out the door. The next morning, he opened his sock drawer and pulled out the bag test. He sat on the edge of the bed staring at it. 2 pink lines. Faded now, but undeniable. The weight of it was unbearable. He almost called her. Almost. But what would he say? "Are you pregnant? Is it mine? Do you remember? Because I don't." Instead, he sat on the couch that night and watched a rerun of a game he no longer cared about. Haley never showed, and for the first time in weeks, he wished she had, because the silence had become louder than any confession could have been. The message came on a Monday morning. A text, short, final. "I can't carry this alone anymore. I'm leaving. You need to tell her before she hears it from someone else." Caleb stared at the screen for a full minute, heart pounding. Then he grabbed his keys. Haley's apartment was already half empty by the time he got there. Boxes sealed, a suitcase zipped, the couch stripped of cushions. It smelled like cardboard and detachment. She opened the door before he knocked, like she knew he was coming. "You said you were leaving. Where?" "East Texas, my aunt's." He glanced at the boxes. "So it's true. It's always been true." You just didn't want to name it." She handed him a sealed envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. "I don't want your money. I just didn't want to carry fear alone. You don't have to respond. Just know that I won't be around to keep your secret anymore. Whatever happens next is on you." Caleb folded it carefully and slid it into his back pocket. Haley didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just turned away and kept packing. He didn't know how long he stood there. But when he left, he felt lighter and more exposed. That same afternoon, Amanda got a message from a friend, a nurse at the women's health clinic where Amanda used to volunteer during summers. A photo. Haley, stepping out of the clinic doors, holding a folder, face pale. Amanda didn't reply. She didn't confront him that night. But the next morning, she was home early, too early. Josh was at school. The house was still. Caleb walked into the kitchen and saw her standing at the sink, holding the plastic bag, the one with the faded test. "Is there anything you want to say to me before I ask?" she said. He opened his mouth, closed it. "Did you touch her?" she asked. Silence. Amanda looked him straight in the eyes. "Then you did, and you let me find out like this." Her voice didn't break, but something inside him did. "It wasn't like that." He tried. "I don't even remember." She held up a hand. Don't give me versions. Don't give me blurred lines. Give me nothing or give me all of it." He gave her nothing. She nodded once, slowly, then turned and walked out of the kitchen. That night, she didn't sleep in their room. That weekend, she didn't wear her wedding ring. By the following week, Caleb came home to half of her clothes gone. She never shouted, and somehow, that hurt more, because Amanda wasn't leaving in anger. She was leaving in clarity. And that kind of exit is irreversible. Amanda didn't file for divorce. Not yet. Instead, she moved into the guest room, claimed it was because of her early mornings, her new lesson prep, her need for space. She was gone more often, before sunrise. Home long after Josh was asleep. When Caleb asked if she'd be home for dinner, she'd say, "Don't wait up." At first, Josh didn't notice, but kids always notice eventually. One night, while Caleb was putting him to bed, Josh asked, "Why doesn't mommy hug you anymore?" Caleb couldn't answer. He just tucked the blanket tighter and kissed his son's forehead, then sat in the hallway after lights out, arms wrapped around his knees. Haley was gone. She'd left Lubbock within the week. A friend of a friend mentioned she was living with her aunt in a small town near Tyler. No one knew for sure. She didn't leave a number, didn't ask for help. Then, in late fall, word reached him through someone at the hospital. A baby girl, born healthy, no name listed for the father. He didn't ask for pictures, didn't try to reach out. But he wrote her a long email, pages and pages of apologies, explanations, confessions that barely held shape. He never sent it. Instead, he printed it, folded it neatly, pasted it into the back of a leather-bound journal he kept in his desk drawer. On the last page, in his own handwriting, he added a single line. "I was weak, but the silence made me a stranger in both lives." Winter came. Amanda never said the word separation. But she never wore her ring again, never introduced him as her husband when they ran into people in public. Her smiles were reserved, her eyes distant. At parent-teacher night, she asked him to wait in the car. On Saturdays, she took Josh out for hours. Caleb stayed home and cleaned things that didn't need cleaning. One Sunday, he walked to the park alone, the same one where he used to take Josh when he was a toddler. He sat on the bench they always shared. A man passed by pushing a stroller, laughing as his daughter clapped and reached for bubbles in the air. Caleb watched them disappear down the path. No one called him Dad. No one asked him where he'd been. He sat there until the sun dipped behind the trees. Then he stood up and walked home to a house where he no longer knew what door to knock on. Caleb lost something he didn't know how to name. Not just trust, not just love, but the right to be part of two lives. One he broke, and one that never had his name. But sometimes, betrayal doesn't happen in the dark. It happens under the open sky. On the same beach where you once held hands. While someone else holds the ring. Next, we head to Galveston, where Samantha witnessed a romantic beach proposal, only to realize the man on one knee was already her husband. Coming up next, Samantha from Galveston, a beach proposal unraveled her husband's double life.